رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum. Everyone, hi. My name is Jan Bakari. I'm a second year medical student and I'm also a biology tutor. In this video, we're going to be covering, inshallah, how to use Anki. For anyone who doesn't know, Anki is basically essentially just a flashcard app, very simply where you would normally be using your physical flashcard. Of course, there's a few negatives with this, or a considerable amount of negatives. One of the fact is that you have to make the flashcard yourself. Also, you have to buy the flashcard paper. It's quite cheap. It's very cheap, I think, but still, regardless, if you run out, you have to go and buy some more, which has been quite a headache. I remember when I used to make my own flashcard at some point back in year 12 or something, and I don't know, you don't really want to stock up loads and loads, but sometimes you do like run out as well. Another thing as well with physical flashcards, obviously you have to make them yourself. That's a lot of effort. Then you also have to store them as well. That means that's effort, that's space. I've seen there's something, or I've heard of these like I don't know, some type of plastic, I'm assuming, or some type of thing you can put in your room or in your desk. And essentially, let's say for example, one of the compartments is it says like 1 day, then another compartment says maybe a week after, another one says maybe after 4 weeks or something like that, which essentially it's there so it can tell you how, or after how long do you review your card. So let's say, for example, you try the card and I don't know, if you don't really understand it properly, or you maybe understand it like a tad bit, but not fully, then you could put it in a specific one. Maybe you want to review it tomorrow. But like when you think of it, like it's a bit of a headache having this whole system. It's quite a lot of hassle. Essentially, I guess that's where Anki is useful. Obviously, this video isn't sponsored or anything like that. It's just basically I'm just trying to explain, inshallah, how to use it. I should have said this at the start as well, but in terms of who this is aimed at, to be honest, basically anyone who is interested in using Anki, inshallah. I guess more so this technically is aimed at like A-level students in like year 12, year 13, maybe anyone in GCSE as well, or of course anyone in general, maybe in university, medical students, anyone who's looking at trying to use Anki. And I think I was quite not essentially against using Anki, but I think it's something you kind of it's like a phase, as in like not phase, as in you kind of maybe with time you'll eventually realize that it's quite beneficial. With me personally, I kind of said to myself, whatever happens in medicine first year, I'm not going to use Anki. And I tried doing physical notes. I tried basically every method there is out there to try and I don't know make some form of notes. And then eventually I just realized that Anki is probably the most efficient one in terms of the input to outcome ratio, meaning how much effort you put in to how much outcome you get. Now, of course, in terms of effort, whatever method you do to revise, regardless, it's going to be a lot of hours, a lot of effort in general. So it's kind of just trying to see how can we maximize, inshallah, the amount of time or like the outcome from the amount of time we're putting in. And one thing I was thinking I was doing back it was back in I don't know, like 2024 last year. I think it was maybe November time. I tried doing like renal physiology, so stuff to do with the kidneys back in medicine first year, and I just kind of was shocked as to how quickly I was taking in information. I shouldn't say taking in actually. I should emphasize memorizing because Anki isn't really an app for understanding. Some people maybe it works for them, but me personally, I would say with Anki, if you want to, I don't know, you want to like understand stuff, maybe don't use Anki. Try and understand with pen and paper, the old traditional method, or white iPad and whiteboard pen, or I don't know, whiteboard and whiteboard pen, or whatever it is, stylus. And the main thing is to try and understand and then make your Ankis or something like that. You can also get pre-made Ankis. Originally in year one, I used to use pre-made Ankis. Now I make my own Ankis. Um, I kind of one thing I noticed was with some pre-made Ankis, you kind of have to spend so much time putting, I don't know, effort into it, adjusting them, putting them to your style, making the questions different, maybe including some type of prompt, to the point where you kind of think to yourself, is this more like efficient or is it better if I just make it myself? I can make sure I'm including all of the content and all that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, that's essentially why I started using Anki. And yeah, let me just kind of explain how to use it. So I'll stop share my screen and I'll share my other screen. So if you're, I don't know, you're listening to this with earphones in, maybe it's beneficial to check your, um, like your, what's it called? I don't know, your phone or your iPad or laptop or something. Now, okay, so what I've done, you can see here I'm on user two, so I've made like a separate one. Why can't I just remove this? Okay, cool. So let's say, for example, this is a completely blank canvas. You just downloaded Anki. Now I'll kind of go through everything. Um, now what stuff in the corner, to be honest, edit. I don't know, you don't really tend to use them. Add-ons is quite good. If you go on Anki website, I think there's certain things like this leaderboard here, I think is an add-on. There's also something called, I forgot what it's called, but essentially you can see how many Ankis you do every day and stuff. But that's quite cool as well. Those are add-ons. You can probably find them on YouTube or Reddit or something like that. But let's say, for example, let's say you're doing A-level biology year 12, topic 1.1, and that's biological compounds, okay? So let's say I would create a deck. So here, middle at the bottom, create a deck, and I'm gonna write topic 1.1, biological compounds, okay? By the way, I set the WJC, so called the WJC exam board for A levels. So let's say topic 1.1, biological compounds. Now in here, what also it contains stuff like inorganic ions. It contains water. What other stuff is there? It's like carbs, definition of carbs, proteins, and lipids. Okay, so that essentially is what is inside this topic. Okay, so can you see the main topic, or right now, essentially, it's all like meshed together. Okay, so what we can do is let's say we want to put it all under the same topic. So I'll put inorganic ions in, then water, then carbs, then I believe lipids and proteins. Okay, so if I press the plus button, I now have it in order. Okay, now I didn't use Anki in A levels. If I was to in hindsight, which I probably would in hindsight say I would want to use it, um, I probably would go about like this. The reason why is because this topic is quite a simple topic. If you're watching this before you enter year 12, you may wonder, like, oh, this topic looks really hard. It looks hard and it looks really intense, but realistically, after inshallah you get to December time, you'll look back at this topic and think, this topic, it just feels intense because it's a lot of information and you have the jump from GCSE. But realistically, when you are by exam season, this is one of those topics which, I don't know, you don't really put that much effort into. The moment it clicks, it's done. But yeah, this is how I would go about it. The reason why I'd go about it like this is because, let's say, for example, I'm struggling on lipids. Now, rather than me having to go through the whole deck, I can just focus on lipids. I can press that and I can do my questions, okay? Let me add a question, for example. Um, I don't know. Let me think of a question with lipids. Okay, very simple. How many fatty acids does a triglyceride have? Okay. And then so that's the front of the card. But you can see here at the front, this is, by the way, a basic setting. That's the front of the card. Now, just like a physical flashcard, I don't have any pieces of paper around me, but just like you have the front, you have the back. Let's say the back, we could say 3 fatty acids, okay? Something fairly straightforward. And then, by the way, something that's really cool with Anki is it can be very efficient. So you can if I press here Control A, it will automatically put this in. So I don't need to use my mouse. So if I press Control A, it's automatically added, okay? Um, should I try and add another one? No, actually, I'll maybe add it to another one, a different one. So can you see here, topic 1.1 biological compounds, that's the topic. And what I'm doing is lipids, okay? And then what I want to do, let's say I want to study, I can press study now. I'm not going to submit this because I don't want to add more and more questions. But let's see, I want to answer. So I see it. This is my prompt. This is the front of the flashcard. Then I press enter or space bar, I think. And let's say I didn't get it right, then I can maybe do it within the next minute, or like less than a minute. So essentially meaning that I can do it in very quick, like how do I explain it? In a very quick duration or something like that. If I find it okay, a bit hard, then I can press 6 minutes. If I found it completely easy, I'll press 10 minutes. And if it's one of those questions which I don't really need to do at all, then I'll just press easy. I'll pause this for a second because I need to go. Assalamu alaikum. Apologies for the pause. We're going to get back into it. I also have to remember what I was talking about. I believe I was talking about, let me just see. So the different Anki, I'll just double check. Great. Okay. Back on the thing. So I was discussing, okay, the different ones. We've got 1 minute, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, and 5 days. Now, the more and more you do it, so let's say, for example, you said 10 minutes twice. So when you press 10 minutes the first time, then the second time you do it, it'll say, after that, it'll say 1 day, meaning you can then review it after 1 day. Let's say tomorrow, you then see the card straight away and you see how many fatty acids does a triglyceride have? Three fatty acids, great. Now it's going to say maybe after a certain more number of days. And it's the same concept essentially. Now, let's say, for example, I said 5 days. It's so easy. Personally, if it's that easy to the point where it's 5 days and consistently, it wouldn't be in my Anki deck. So if I do find that, then I probably would just kind of ignore that. Just 5 days, sure. After then, I think it's like 16 days or something like that, some like really big number, or after several months. Those cards aren't really the ones I'm gonna focus on as much. But obviously, the goal is at the end of the day for everything, God willing, to be like at that kind of level in terms of knowledge. So that is essentially very simply one type of card. What I also do is I'll explain another one. So if I go back, I press browse. So what you can also do if you press browse, excuse me, I've got some hiccups. Okay, so in terms of browse, you can see all of your previous ones. I know right now we only have one deck which has a card in it, but let's say for example, you can see all the ones that are edited, so added, edited, first reviews, rescheduled, overdue. There's a variety of different ones. You can flag some cards, you can do different types of things. And you can also edit from here as well. So let me just copy and paste this. Now let me show you a different type of card. That is the basic flashcard, okay? Now, with me personally in medicine, this is for anyone who are like med students or something like that, or any university students, or I guess doing something a bit more complicated potentially than like just like your A levels, then in which case you can maybe look at other cards. So in which case you have, can you see here your variety of different options? You've got basic. I'll be honest, I don't really understand. This is where like you're kind of getting into the nitty gritty. But me personally, I don't really, I don't know, use them. This looks quite cool. I've never used it. Type in the answer. But yeah, for me personally, I have three main go-tos: basic, close, and image occlusion. Now in year two medicine, I'll be honest, haven't really used basic as much because I found that close is much more easier, especially in lectures and different types of things. It's easier to keep like a more consistent format essentially. So let's say, for example, we go to close. Now, essentially what you do is you'll put the answer question in, and now what you do is this differs between MacBook and whether you just have like a normal laptop. I just have a normal laptop like an Asus, alhamdulillah, all praise to God. So yeah, so you press Control Shift C, I believe. So if I press Control Shift C, I get this, okay? What I used to do, well, I didn't really do this as much because I was making pre-made, but I used to actually physically type this up for every card. Obviously, I only did this a few cards because I was doing pre-made Ankies. I didn't actually know about this until recently, but like I said, all praise to God. And then, yeah, so let's say, for example, how many fatty acids does a triglyceride have? I'll say three fatty acids. Great. Once again, try and remember what was it, the thing we were talking about in terms of how do you submit it quickly, in terms of a shortcut or a keyboard shortcut. It was control, like shift or like control enter essentially, control shift. I think that key is called shift, but let's see what that looks like now. If I press study now, we have our basic one. Okay, that's our basic card. Then we have this one. How many fatty acids does a triglyceride have? It's basically the exact same. However, for me personally, this is more so for people who are adding maybe a variety of different things onto their same card. Um, I found that this is my favorite one to use. And also, it's very easy as well. Let's say, for example, you're using some form of, hmm, I don't know, you're using some form of AI or something like that to maybe help you out. Rather than you having to, let's say, for example, if I press add and I press basic, if I'm copying and pasting, I've got to copy and paste the front, then go back to the AI or something like that, copy and paste the back of the card. So it becomes a bit more of a headache. With close, I can just ask the AI or something to, um, I don't know, make me a close shift style Anki on this specific content. I'll give it the content. Um, and then great, it'll give it to me, and then it'll automatically be done. So it really saves a lot of hassle for me personally, I found. And then you got image occlusion. Image occlusion is an amazing thing. I'll give you an example. Let me go and get a photo of, I don't know, all right, heart diagram, okay? So I know you guys are doing, I think, I mean, it depends on what level you're at right now, whether you're in A levels, maybe GCSE. If you're in GCSE and doing Ankis, Allahumma barak, that's amazing. Um, let's see. Okay, so I'll go back. I'll just copy and pasted that. Please move this window away. I don't know what I was saying. Okay, let's press add. Now let's press image occlusion. Okay, essentially what this is, it's easy if I just show you. If I paste image from keyboard, great. It's a PNG, I think, so it doesn't have a background, which is a bit of a headache. That's fine, alhamdulillah. So what you can do is if you just press, like I've got a mouse, so if you just hold the mouse, you can place it over, okay? So let's say, for example, I've just made three of them. Each one you place individually, that is three individual cards. If I place a fourth one, that is now four individual cards, okay? Now, first, let me explain that maybe. I'll add it, and now let's press, I mean, we can just go straight into it. I'll press one. Yeah. Nope. Okay. There we go. Actually, know that. Okay. Essentially now, what happened is it's a bit hard to see, but if you look in the middle, that red box, now it's going to ask me, what is that? I'll try and attempt it. And then, okay, there we go. And then it's all aorta. Some things I've noticed with Anki, sometimes it glitches, but for me personally, I've just seen that if I just get my mouse, move it up and down, it automatically just resets. Like you saw a bit of a glitch there. Not any issue at all, I'll be honest. It takes 2 seconds to adjust. But that's the aorta. Great. I then think to myself, do I know that? Do I not know that? I'll put it accordingly. Let's just say it was hard, 6 minutes. Now I get a new card, okay? Now I'll see what that is. Think of it. I'll think if it's right or not. No, sorry, I'll just think of it like an answer. Then great, pulmonary artery. Do I know that? No, yes. I'll do accordingly. Now, can you see I'm back to phase one? Now let's say the question was, how many fatty acid does a triglyceride have essentially? Three fatty acid. Now let's press good, okay? So great. Let's just go through it again. I'll just fly through the cards. Now let's go back to that same card again, okay? How many fatty acid does a triglyceride have? Know that. I think it's this one now. Okay, bit of a glitch going on. Let's just go back to the previous card. This is something which I can get through. Okay, there we go. If you look at the bottom now, you can see that it now says 1 day, okay? So where it used to say 10 minutes there, now it says 1 day, meaning, let's say, for example, I got pulmonary artery right straight away. I'm like, okay, that's quite cool. I'll press 1 day, meaning now tomorrow, I don't know what time it sets or like the clocks adjust for this, but then essentially tomorrow, by the time you probably wake up, you're ready to revise and stuff, inshallah, you'll have the cards ready. Now, we have different ones. It says new cards here, the cards you have to learn here, and the cards that are due. The due cards essentially are cards that you have to review, meaning that you've done them the previous day or something, and now you have to review them, you have to go over them and adjust accordingly. But cool, so that's that type of thing. Now, let's say, for example, inorganic ions, I'll just write something random. Let's just write, I'll just do a scribble, and then I'll just put the thing in, Control Shift C. Okay, cool. Let's say, for example, that's in inorganic ions, okay? Now, let's say, for example, I want to review the whole unit, okay, or the whole topic. Now, what I can do is rather than me individually going through them, I can just review this. Can you see it's a difference? So these are individual topics, which I can also hide. So it's quite good for organization. And at the top, now, if I want to review everything in a topic, let's say, for example, I had like 90 cards in each deck or something like that. And I'll just press this and great. Press steady now. Well, that was the card from a different deck. I'll go through it. Do I know it? Do I not know it? Do it accordingly, and so forth. Okay. Now I'll just pause the video and I'll open this up on my normal account, trying to show you guys a bit more of a realistic photo. Okay, so this is my anatomy deck. This is from year one, so I haven't really touched it but since year one as much. I've got a different anatomy deck now. But okay, let's just go through it. We have our different, essentially each one of these represents a different lecture. We have the brain anatomy, abdomen, thorax, upper limb, and so forth. And can you see here, now the numbers are a bit crazy because I haven't done them in quite a while, but you can see here, these are our essentially the cards that we need to review. These are our new cards, and these are the cards that we haven't really got correct right now, so we need to review them as soon as possible. These are the cards that we should kind of have a bit more knowledge on. The biggest thing though with Anki, which I will say, is if you're someone who will struggle to do this every day, maybe this isn't for you. Now, this is something I kind of learned when I was going into pre-made Ankis. This is a lesson I kind of learned the hard way, but it genuinely is something you've got to do every single day. And you've got to just I don't know, just go on Anki, maybe just do it early in the morning, try and get it out the way, get all of your reviews done first. That's I personally seen this is God willing the best strategy. There probably is much better strategies out there, but I'm kind of just learning it as I go along. Um, but yeah, just get all the reviews done out the way in the morning, and then kind of make new lectures or make new notes and stuff. With A levels, honestly, if you can just get this revision strategy mastered, obviously speak to people who have been using Anki in A level. There's a variety of different people, and try and like seek their guidance in terms of that, or seek their help in terms of how to go about it, how to structure specific things. But honestly, it's a very, very useful tool. I'm thinking, is there anything else I'd want to cover? I've covered image occlusion, basic, everything like that. I think what I would say that in terms of some general tips, if I just stop screen sharing, okay, cool. Any general tips? I think the biggest thing I would say with Anki is if you are not starting Anki yet and you may be interested in it or you want to try it out, what I would say is just put some time aside and just think to yourself, this one day I'm just going to spend trying my best to understand Anki, seeing is it really for me, seeing maybe I don't know, just trying to see is it something which I kind of like. The biggest thing I think with Anki is the moment you see or you experience it firsthand for yourself, the feeling of where you've just reviewed a bit of content and it's actually stuck in your brain, where when you're prompted towards that with a question or something like that with your Anki or with a flashcard, then you get the answer right. Now, 100% though, the information you're putting into Anki needs to be accurate because if not, you're going to be memorizing inaccurate information, and that's just going to have like negative implications, which you can just think of, where you're just in the exam and you're like, okay, I know this 100%, but you just got the wrong answer because you've had the wrong one in your notes the whole time. Now, what I would say very quickly, I would say this. Let me just screen share. Now, because if you watch my other videos, you'll see that essentially when I talk about like revising and like learning and stuff like this, I always say that there's a variety of different steps. I'll just screen share my screen. Okay. So very quickly, I'll go over them. The four steps of learning for me personally. Number one, you have to be kind of it's your first time coming across the information. So I'll just write exposure to like the information. This is commonly in like your lectures, in your tutorials, or maybe in like A level in your classes and other teaching like that. That's just your first time coming across the information. If you understand it in that moment, amazing. Realistically, you probably need to review it a few more times. Then you've got understanding, okay? Now, with understanding, I would really emphasize you don't have to use Anki with this, okay? Some people will say, I kind of do my understanding phase with Anki. If that works for them, that's completely fine. If that works for you, once again, alhamdulillah, that's completely fine. That's amazing, actually. That's because that's very efficient. Me personally, I found that if I over rely with Anki, I'm just memorizing information for the sake of passing exams. I'm not really understanding it properly. And that comes to the next stage, which is the memorization stage, okay? Now, with the memorization aspect, this is where Anki is amazing. Genuinely, it's completely like it's really, really good, really efficient. And another thing, another like method essentially some people you can use is blurting. I've tried this before. For me personally, it doesn't work. Can you see that I keep saying words like for me personally, for example? The reason I keep saying these phrases is due to the fact that it's very subjective. You have to really see what works for you. And of course, don't just think, oh, this works for me, this doesn't. See it in terms of like, I guess, make it evidence based. See, does this specific strategy, does it mean that I get better grades? Or this one, does it, if I do it, let's say, for example, you've just been passively making notes, you've been highlighting the textbook, kind of you're making those aesthetic notes, cool. But realistically, when you go and see, does that actually yield a good outcome? Do I get those top grades which I'm trying to get? Let's say, inshallah, God willing, you're trying to get into medicine, dentistry, competitive degrees. You need to be trying to be really reflective and really trying to understand where you're going wrong and try to improve that and implement strategies to overcome that. Okay. So our four steps, we had exposure, understanding, memorization. Last step is application. Okay. Now, I've got absolutely no idea if this is a specific model out there. This is just something I kind of just learned with time. And I found personally that if I, for example, exposure, it has to happen because, of course, you have to come across the information for the first time. But let's say understanding, if I skip this step, let's say I don't do this step, I jump straight to memorization. This is very common in like exam season, or I've got some, I don't know, some type of test or something like that coming up in the very short term where you may just kind of skip understanding and just jump to memorization. Okay, that's fine. In because short term, you may get the knowledge. Long term, realistically, you're going to struggle a bit more because you need to develop that understanding as well. And then, of course, goes that saying you have to apply your knowledge, and that's going to be really how you're going to strengthen it. The way you can do this is in terms of past paper questions. If you're in university, maybe use some form of question banks, past med, past test, all of these types of things, depending on what you're studying. But that's in terms of that. Now, another question I had today, which I'll also answer in this YouTube video. The question was about, I think it was like, can I just use the textbook and just revise and memorize the textbook? Now, I'll give this analogy or this example, okay? Let's say, for example, we have a house in the middle, okay? If you already hear this example, you can probably close the video, because I'm just going to explain this, inshallah. If you haven't, then maybe stick around for a bit. Let's say, for example, you have a house, okay, in the middle. Now, on this house, you have different perspectives on the house, okay? What I'm trying to draw here are eyes, okay? The eyes are looking at the house, but they're looking at the house from different angles, okay? So just a reminder what the question was. The question I was asked was, can I just revise from one place? Can I just take my knowledge from the textbook? And this was asked for A level. So for A level, I guess the answer is like, it's fine, it should be okay. However, really to build that understanding, you want to be taking your knowledge from a variety of different places, okay? Let me just make sure that I'm actually screen sharing as well. Excuse me. Yep, I am. Okay, cool. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so if you take your knowledge, let's say, for example, this is A, that's B, C, and D, okay? If we look in terms of the analogy, can you see that this is the house in the middle? Meaning this is what we're trying to look at, okay? Let's say we're looking at a textbook, we're looking at Messelson style, we're looking at protein synthesis, DNA replication, I don't know, cardiology, heart anatomy, whatever it is, whether you're in A-level, university, anything like that. If you just take your knowledge from one place, it's not going to always show the full scenario, okay? So let's say from here, you can only see this much, okay? Is that really showing you everything? Sometimes, depending on the context, it's sufficient. You only need to know that much. However, sometimes, especially with the more difficult and the more harder topics, it's more beneficial to take your knowledge from a variety of places. Because when you take your knowledge from one place, it can be at times, depending, of course, on the context, your knowledge may not be the strongest. However, if you take your knowledge from a variety of different keyword reliable sources, let's say, for example, A is your textbook, and then you're looking from B, which is your, I don't know, you're reading research articles or whatever is relevant to your specification or what you're studying. Let's say you're doing A levels, you're maybe physics and math tutor, save my exams, other stuff like that. Then you're also using some form of AI potentially just to kind of reiterate and fact check that knowledge. Then maybe you don't understand something, so you ask it, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And then I don't know, D could be maybe you've got like tutoring, revision, all this kind of stuff. What I'm trying to say is you're taking your knowledge from a variety of different places. So if one point of view doesn't make sense, the other point of view may make sense. Or if not, then the other one will. So what that means is you really can strengthen your knowledge a lot more. And this is to do with the understanding aspect, okay? Like I said, that's, okay, I wiped that. But with memorization, if you just skip understanding and go straight onto memorization, in the short term, it may work out. Keyword is may. God willingly, it probably will, because like if it's, let's say, for example, it's the night before and you're just absolutely cramming your work, hopefully, inshallah, by the morning, you should be able to remember it and recall it. However, if you're thinking maybe 2 weeks in advance, 3 weeks, I don't know, maybe even a term in advance before your exam, try your best to understand the information, because when you understand something, it will help you so much to fully apply it as well, okay? Sometimes you're not able to apply knowledge because you actually truly just don't fully understand it. So that's something I would very much recommend. Now, I'll just go back. So that probably sums up this video. I hope it's been useful, God willing. And any questions you have or any future videos or something like that, feel free to write it in the comments. And yeah, like I mentioned, my name is Jan Makari. I'm a second-year medical student, and I'm also a biology tutor. So if you're interested in biology tutoring, I tutor under the WJC exam board because it's just the exam board that I've done. And of course, goes without saying, but like this channel isn't affiliated with any academic institution or any organization or anything of that nature. It's just kind of something which I just make, maybe if I've got some time, inshallah, I'll just make a video on some common questions I get asked. And yeah, I hope it's been useful. I'll stop screen sharing. And inshallah, all the best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.